ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Sri Harinam Chintamani series, which has been going on. We have been discussing the last chapter of Sri Harinam Chintamani, which is speaking about the prayojan, the goal. And last week we had only one class because the Jagannath Mishra festival was there. And in the whole progression of this 15 chapter where the Nam Ras is discussed, we had an elaborate discussion on the Rasa Tattva, how all the different bhavas combine and give rise to rasa. And then how Nam is, having this name, form, qualities, and then pastimes. And how by meditating like this on the Nam, when attains this rasa. And this happens by the spiritual master's mercy, and one gradually attains his spiritual form. I'll just share the screen. So how one gradually attain his spiritual form, Siddha Swarupa, and enters into the Lord's pastimes and attains association of the Sakhis, Radha's Gopika. And Srimati Radharani is Mahabhava Swarupuni. And we engage in the loving service of devotional service under her guidance. And let's how we serve under the command of the Sakhis. We serve the divine couple. And in this way, the Rasika devotee becomes plunged in the nectar of love. We also saw text 55. Linga Bhanga Vastu Siddhi. The subtle material body, Linga Dheya, is broken and one attains true perfection. By this practice of how slowly you attain the spiritual body, Siddha Swarupa, what happens? One attains the perfection of devotional service. Then, by your mercy, O Lord, his subtle material body, Linga Deha, is broken and he attains to spiritual perfection. So, in the last class, this is where we stopped at text 55. And if you remember, we discussed when the subtle body is completely destroyed. Anyone remembers in our discussion in the last class? When does the subtle body completely get destroyed? At what stage in our devotion? Anyone remembers? You can raise your hands. Oh, nobody remembers. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It is Bhava stage, Prabhuji.
Yes, it is Bhava stage. Yeah, at the stage of Bhava, once subtle body is completely, the impressions of the subtle body are fully destroyed, and one's spiritual body or the spiritual rasa in relationship to the Lord is revealed. One's spiritual identity is also revealed. And that is the Shikshashtakam verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkar. That is at the stage of Bhava. Trunadapi Sunichena is Nishtha stage. And Durdaivami, second verse, is the stage of Bhajan Kriya and Anarth Nivritti. So that's how, the Shikshashtam verses also you can understand. Now, let us begin from text 56. Text 56 and text 57. I'm not going into an elaborate discussion on the many points which we can discuss, but I'm just going to read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's verses and add few points just to understand what is the stage, what is really ahead of us if we practice pure devotional service, Ananya Bhakti. Now he says, one when attains this true spiritual perfection, that is at Bhava. Bhava is Premankura. Immediately Prema will also manifest. It's like a bud. Bhava is like a bud. And Prema is like the fully blossomed flower. So in two verses, he explains what is this state now. There is no description of the state that follows. It is known only by experiencing it. Tad uttar avastha varnana hoy na. Keval anubhuta hoy. So words cannot describe a person who is in the state of bhava. It's only experience, anubhav. He is experiencing it and you cannot understand it by words. No logic will work. Iharadika aravakya nahi chale, taduttar anubhava labi kripa bole. Words cannot describe the next stage. Iharadik aravakya na chale. O Lord, by your mercy, kripa bhale, one must experience it directly. So it's a matter of only experience. Krishna consciousness is very practical. If you are practicing Krishna consciousness, you have to experience Krishna. You have to see Krishna, you have to talk to Krishna, and you have to experience the spiritual emotions. And this experience begins from the stage of bhava. Okay, let us see the footnote, what is here. Up to this point, the condition of the individual soul may be described with words. After this point, words have no power to describe the soul's condition. O Lord, by your mercy, the soul must experience this condition to understand it. That is why in the Madhurya Kadamani, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur, Madhurya Kadamani is a work written by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur explaining the 9 stages which Rupa Goswami has given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Ado Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anarth Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. So In each of his showers, it is called as Pratama Vrishti, Dvitiya Vrishti. Vrishti means shower of nectar, of Madhurya, of sweetness of Krishna. So the initial chapters, he very analytically discusses, very philosophically. But after Nishtha and Ruchi, even Ruchi up till Ruchi, he discusses. But after Asaktina, he says, it's matter of experience. And he narrates the story form, the experience of a Bhava Bhakta. And it is madness. It's divine madness. There he gives a description. One who is experiencing Bhava, he thinks he's very fallen, even if he forgets for a moment Krishna. And sometimes he sees an ant which is going, and he starts thinking, oh, if this ant comes towards me, then I can consider that Krishna has mercy upon me. But if this ant goes away from me, then Krishna is not bestowing mercy upon me. Now, if you think from logic, my goodness, what the ant moving towards him or against him has to do with Krishna's mercy? So that's why his state is only a matter of experience. And when the devotee goes to the temple and has the darshan of the Lord, he sees a pillar which is in front of the altar, and he starts thinking, oh, this pillar, so fortunate it is. It's constantly drinking the nectar of Krishna's beauty. I'm not so fortunate. I only come for a few minutes and take darshan. He's seeing pillar also as a devotee. This was the mood of the gopis. The gopis were thinking, oh, this flute, it's so advanced. It must have done so much austerities because always it is drinking the nectar of Krishna's lips. Adara Amrita. Adara means the lips. Amrita, it is drinking. So the gopis are considering the flute to be more elevated than themselves. So this is the state. That's why it cannot be described. It is only a matter of experience. So we should all, Krishna consciousness means ultimately we have to become mad for Krishna. Divine madness, divine love. We are already mad. We are mad after sense gratification. Everyone in this material world is mad to enjoy in this material world. So there is another state of spiritual madness. That is the jiva's condition. The jiva has to be mad. Either he's mad for Maya or mad for Krishna. The choice is ours. Okay. Let's go to the next verse, text 57. Ete ujwala ras parama sadhana ihaite nishchaya mile Krishna prema dhana. This is the way of advancement in ujwala ras. Ete ujwala ras parama sadhana. This is the sadhana by which you can attain ujwala ras. In this way, one attains a great treasure of love for Lord Krishna, Krishna Premadan. Ihaite nishya mile, Krishna Premadan. Now, anyone knows what is this Ujjwala Rasa? You can raise your hands. What is this Ujjwala Rasa? Tirandra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes.
It's probably Madhurya, Sringar Rasa.
It is Shringar Rasa. It is Madhuri Shringar Rasa. Down footnote, it is there. And that is why Narottam Das Thakur, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in their bhajans, Joya Joya Ujjwala Rasa, Sarva Rasa Sar. Among all the rasas, the Ujjwala Rasa is the topmost. Parakiya Bhave Vrajete Parchar. So even in the Madhurya, specifically, it is not the Sokya Ras, wedded love between Krishna and the Mahishis in Dwarka, the 16,108 queens. But it is Parakiya Bhav, the love of the Paramar outside marriage, unwedded love. And this kind of Parakiya Bhav, Vrajete Prachar. So all our acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, Kaviraj Das Goswami, all the acharyas who were coming, they propagated this because Rupa Goswami is coming in this mood. Our line is of the line following Rupa Goswami. So this is what access we have been given to this Ujjvala Ras. Okay, let us see the footnote. Shringar Ras, the Ras of conjugal love, is also called Ujjvala Ras, the glorious rasa. And why not? This rasa is supremely glorious in the spiritual world. Even this rasa is supremely glorious in the material world, perverted, of course, and it is the most condemned, most degraded it is taken. By taking shelter of this rasa, in the earthly land of Raj, one may eventually attain it. Mark this point. In the earthly land of Raj, only this rasa of the spiritual Golok Ujjvala Ras can be attained if one on the earthly land of Raj takes shelter of Vrindavan, a true devotee of Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, then he can attain it. So in the material world also, we have at least these 4 rasas, which we have reciprocation from both sides. Of course, the Shant rasa, there is no reciprocation from the Gulab Jamun towards us. The Gulab Jamun doesn't feel pleasure that, this person is eating me. He doesn't experience ecstasy because it is jad. But we see how these rasas, in the material world also, how these rasas evolve, and in the material world also, which rasa is the highest? Anyone knows? Which rasa is highest in the material world? The perverted rasas. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
It's a Madhuri, Prabhu. It's Madhuri.
Yeah. Which are the other 4 rasas?
It's Sakhya, Vatsalya, Dasya, and this Madhuri.
Yeah, there is first Dasya, then Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Okay, now, although we are speaking about a very, very elevated topic, which is way beyond our comprehension, way beyond our intelligence, but something in our experience we have in this world, I'll try to prove how Madhuri Ras is superior in the perverted form in this world. Okay, now when a child is born for the mother, so the child during his initial years of life, he's completely under the shelter of the mother. So which rasa he is relishing? Anyone? Both from the mother and child perspective. Yes, Mataji?
Vatsalya Ras, Prabhuji.
Vatsalya Ras. Okay. Now, as the child grows, say 5 years, 6 years, and he starts moving out of the house, and then he starts playing. So what happens then? Which rasa he is now starting to relish? Yes, Sunita Mataji, you can answer.
Sakhya Ras.
So you can see now he is no more under the control of the mother. He wants to go out and play, explore the world. So the Vatsalya Ras comes down and the Sakya Ras increases. So that he is experiencing more the Sakya Ras. Now, as he grows and he's a young boy, then what happens? Especially if you get married, which rasa becomes more prominent?
Madhurya.
Yes. And because of Madhurya, sometimes, if you see today, all the family disputes, all the ego clashes which are happening, from a rasa point of view, what is happening when the boy gets married to the girl? Sometimes the girl doesn't want the mother-in-law. He says, you send your mother-in-law to somewhere else because I want to be with you. So being controlled by Madhurya, he gives up the Vatsalya because that Vatsalya is now, it has withered over the period of time. It was only prominent in childhood. Now in youth, the Madhurya is prominent. So like that, you can see, even in this material world, the Madhurya Ras is the highest. So similarly, in the spiritual world, this Ujjvala Ras is the highest. This is the point Thakur is making. I'm just giving some idea about this. Okay, now next. There is only one verse. Sadhane ekadasha bhava. Ekadasha means 11. The 11 items in the course of advancement in Ujjvala Ras. Okay. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all our acharyas, Rupa Goswami, they speak only about the Ujjvala Ras. They don't speak about other ras, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, because this is what Rupa Goswami has come to give us. We are in this line. And because Madhurya Ras within itself contains, Vatsalya, Sakya, and Dasya, that's why Madhurya Ras is going to be discussed. Even in all our Acharya's work like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, although the other rasas are mentioned, but Madhurya Ras is the highest which is discussed there. Even in Raganuga Bhakti also, although there are the Sambandhanuga Ragatmika Bhakti, where the Raganuga Bhaktas can follow these eternal associates, but Madhurya is more discussed because that is what is we have access in the most degraded of the ages in Kali Yuga. The highest of the rasa is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. Prema rasa niriyas korite asvadana. Raga marga bhakti korite pracharana. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Prema rasa niriyas. He has come to relish the Prema ras. Dasi also is Prema ras, Sakya is also Prema ras, Vatsalya is also Prema ras. But Madhurya is Niryas, the pinnacle of it, the summit of that Niryas. Karite Aswanan. Mahaprabhu has come to relish that Madhurya ras. And Raga Marga Karite Pracharana. And to propagate this Rag Marga of spontaneous love. So Mahaprabhu has come to give this. So that's why all Acharyas mention about this Ujjvala Ras. Sadite Ujjvala Ras Ache Bhava Ekadasha Sambandha Vayasa Nama Rupa Yuta Vesha Agyavasa Seva Parakashtavash Ashvasa Palyadasi A Aparupa. There are 11 items in the advancement of Ujjvala Ras. Ekadasha Bhav. They are one's relationship, Sambandh. In what Sambandh we are related to Krishna, whether it is conjugal or it is parental or friendship like. Then age, what is your age in the spiritual world based on the Sambandh that will be? What is your name? Naam. What is your form? Form of a gopi, form of a gopa, form of a elderly gopa. Group, which group you are, Yuta, which group you are related to, Lalita Saki or Vishaka Saki. And garments, what is your dress, what garments you wear. And command, what is your service, what is your command. Home, where is your, Agyavas is home. Home, Agya and Vas, command and home. Then Seva, what is your service? Parakashta Ashvasa, what is your highest aspiration? To be the servant of Radharani or whatever it is like that, Parakashta. And Palyadasi and Gopi patroness, whom you consider as I'm the servant of such a spiritual master. You see, I'm a servant of this spiritual master. Similarly, I'm a servant of Srimati Radharani. All these are wonderful and beautiful. Now, we will not go into more detailed discussion about this, 11 items in the course of advancement of Ujjvala Ras. Right now, it is suffice for us to understand that there are 11 items which, one needs to know. Now, here is a footnote. That footnote will clear everything. Okay. Ramanand Rai explains Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita 8:228 to 230 here. Now, these are the explanation here. Now, 1 minute, let me go to the verses directly. Yeah, 228. I want to directly go to the verses. This is Ramanand Rai. अथैव गोपी भाव करी अंगीकार रात्रि दिने चिंता Radha Krishna Ravihar. Athaev, therefore, gopi bhav, in the mood of the loving, in the loving mood of the gopis. So this is the mood. Raganuga Bhakta is practicing the mood and following the gopis, the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Kari angikar, accepting. Ratri dine, day and night. Chinte, one should think of what? The pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Now, before coming to the stage, let us chant 24 hours a day the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. First, this is a very, very, very elevated stage to come to this, to always think about the pastimes of Radha Krishna. So, where all it begins from? It begins from chanting incessantly the holy name. And chanting like this, Nam, then slowly Roop. The form of Krishna, when we chant, immediately starts manifesting in our heart because of the purification of the heart. And then the qualities. If you remember in the previous discussion of Sri Harinam Chittami, we mentioned how the name merges into form, and then the name, form, and the qualities merge. Immediately when we hear Krishna, Krishna's wonderful quality of being compassionate, or the 64 qualities which are mentioned, all manifest in the heart. So then pastimes. So after you have made all this advancement by chanting Nama, Rupa, Guna, then Leela. So this is a very, very elevated stage of practice, and one should not take it so cheap like the Sahajiyas who want to directly meditate on Radha Krishna pastimes without any purification of the heart by practicing Vaidisana Bhakti. So this is how we should understand this. Therefore, one should accept the mood of the gopis in their service in such a transcendental mood. That means now the mood is not material, that one day I get up in the morning, I feel like chanting. The next day, I'm not able to get up and say I don't have mood to chant now. No, it is a transcendental. That means one is already a self-realized soul. He's a Sthita Pragya. And he is now in his internal meditation and cultivation. He's practicing, he's internalizing his bhajan. One should always think of the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna. So this is the verse which is quoted in the footnote. Any questions you can always raise your hands. Okay. Then the next verse is here, 229. Let me take that verse. Okay. Siddha dehe chinti kore tahanya sevan sakhi bhave paye Radha Krishna charana. Siddha deha, in the perfected stage. Chinte, by remembering. Smaran. Kare tahani, in the spiritual world. Seva, you'll get the service. How? Sakhi bhave, in the mood of the gopis. Paye Radha Krishna charan. One attains ultimately perfection. After thinking of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, please again mark this, long time. That means we should spend a long time now chanting the holy names. What? Doing what? Anyone? We should spend a long time chanting the holy names, meditating on what? As sadhakas. Yes, let us see about others. Yes, Mataji.
Meditating on the pastimes of Radha Krishna.
No, not at all. No. As sadhakas, we should spend long time chanting the holy names. Doing what? What should be our focus? Anyone? Okay, let us give. Yes, Reena Mataji.
Hare Krishna, listen every word. You have to listen every word.
Yes, we should fix our mind in just hearing the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We should just fix our mind in trying to hear the mantra. Just hear, Prabhupada's. Many times you'll find the statement, just hear. And Krishna also 7.1 in the Bhagavad Gita says, Tat Shrunu, just hear. Like that, when you spend 8-10 years, and gradually with the purification, I'm just giving a rough idea. It depends on one's spiritual advancement from the previous life, so many things. But definitely, without any distraction, when we spend long time hearing the Mahamantra, chanting the Mahamantra, then Nama Nami Abhinna, we realize this. Oh, Krishna is present in the name. Then Nam will manifest the roop. When we take the name, immediately Krishna's picture will come in the mind. And I gave you this mundane example, how when one is in love with a girl in this world, moment he hears the girl's name, immediately the picture comes in the mind. Because these are material impressions, they easily come. And Krishna is actually there in the heart, but now he's covered with unlimited material desires in the heart and in the form of vasanas. So all this Cheto Darpan Marjanam happen, and Swayameva Spurit, Krishna's will immediately manifest without any extraneous effort. Ata Shri Krishna Madi Na Bhavet Graham Indriya Sevan Mukhe Jivvado Swayam Eva Spurit Ada. I hope everyone has heard this verse. Now let us, go into this verse. Somehow it just came to me now. So, Ata Shri Krishna Madi Na Bhavet Grahima Indriya. Right? So this is the verse. Now, interesting to note, Ata Shri Krishna Madi, Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes. See here, the progression is again here. First name, then form, then qualities. Pastimes is not written. Shri Krishna Madi, Lord Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes. Here pastimes Prabhupada is writing. If you always read the word-to-word meaning, everything will come. Na bhavet graham indriya, cannot be perceived by the blunt material senses. Sevan mukhehi jivado, but one who is engaged in service, beginning with the tongue, swayam eva spurita, it becomes manifest. Other, what? Those name, form, qualities, pastimes. So my question to all of you is, the material senses, graham indriya, cannot perceive the transcendental name, form, qualities of Krishna. This is in the first line, the first two lines it is mentioned. But then it is recommended, but you use your material sense. Jiva is a material sense to take Krishna's name. How something which is transcendental, which cannot be perceived by the material senses, but with the material sense, then you will be able to perceive the transcendental. How the material can reveal the spiritual? Sevan mukhehi jivvado, swayam eva spirit, it is mentioned. So how it will happen? Anyone? Yes. Yes, Reena Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. By constantly chanting, you can purify your heart, and then you can by purifying your heart, you go ahead. Then you form नाम से हम form release करते, forms and then qualities and then
No, my question is only related to how the tongue, which is material, will manifest the spiritual. You gave the answer. It's clear, but still, would like to add anything more?
By constantly chanting.
Yeah, what will happen with the material tongue when you chant? What will happen?
Cheto Darpana Marjanam Devatena.
Cheto Darpan will happen definitely, but then there's something else also. Prabhupada used to give a very simple example for this to understand also. Okay, fine. Yes, Sunita Mataji, would like to add something?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, the tongue is material, but the holy name is transcendental.
Okay. Yes. So by chanting that, using the tongue for taking prasad and then vibrating the mantra, what happens? My question is how the material will, reveal the spiritual, because the Lord's name is spiritual. Na bhavet gramindriya, it is mentioned. It's a contradiction. It looks like a contradiction in that verse, if you see. How it will reveal.
The soul is also transcendental. The holy name is also transcendental.
Yeah, but
So
now the tongue is material. The soul is transcendental. Yes, the tongue is material. It's a very simple answer, but sometimes, okay, Vikram, yes.
Dandavat Prabhuji.
Mhm.
The tongue will taste the divine taste of the spiritual name of the God, and it will continually chant.
Mhm.
Unconsciously keep on chanting the Krishna's name.
Yes, yes. Then what is happening actually to the tongue? Okay. Yes, Amal Bhakti Rani Mataji.
It gets purified, Prabhuji, by incessantly chanting.
Yeah, it's get purified means what it happens. What is the term? I want the exact term. Prabhupada is to give a very simple example for this. Yes, yes. Now, okay, let us give the Satan Chaitanya Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhu, it is said that as we chant, the tongue gets Krishnized.
Yes, or spiritualized.
Spiritualized.
And what is the example Prabhupada is to give?
Of the magnet and the iron filings?
Is to usually give that fire and the iron rod.
Okay.
When the iron rod is kept in fire, the iron rod starts, displaying the properties of fire. Even that iron rod you take and it will put some substance and that will also catch fire. So the tongue gets spiritualized. So with the tongue, when we vibrate this holy name, slowly the tongue starts getting spiritualized. And when the chanting, that's why Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is to say that our chanting should not be lip deep, but heart deep. So slowly, we chant initially very loudly because we want to hear the mantra, and there are so many distractions in the mind, so many impressions. But as over the period of years, we master the art of taking the holy name by systematically sitting in a good posture and focusing all our attention. Slowly, the chanting becomes internalized and we call out from the core of our heart. And Krishna, Chaito Darpan margin happen because we are hearing the mantra, the heart becomes, Chaito Darpan margin happens, then Krishna enters the heart. Pravishta Karna Randrena, as in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto, 8th chapter, 5th or 6th verse it is. He enters through the ears in the heart, and from the heart, he will come on the tongue and start dancing on the tongue. When the tongue has become completely spiritualized. So, na bhavet grayam indriya. Grayam indriya, it is material. But sevan mukhe jivvado, when we use the tongue exclusively for vibrating the mantra and exclusively having Krishna Prasad, then it will manifest. And when he'll manifest, when the tongue gets completely spiritualized. And again, this is a stage of bhava and prema. But we get taste after Nishtha, Ruchi, our chanting bhajan. That's why Madhyamadhikari, he is Nirantara Namaloy. He's always taking the holy name. Of course, this was a little out of context with the discussion, but it was an important philosophical point. That's why I took it up. So thinking about Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, this is way for us. Can't even think about this right now. We have to long time hear the holy name. Hear the holy name. And then Nam, Rupa, Guna will manifest progressively. Then Leela. So then it is Leela. For that, it's a very advanced stage for us. It's beyond our now thinking capacity also. And after getting completely free from material contamination. Prabhupada is adding this. One is transferred to the spiritual world. Then one goes to the spiritual world. The devotee attains a opportunity to serve Radha Krishna as one of the gopis. Sakhi bhave paye Radha Krishna charan. Now, I would like to read these two purports because Prabhupada is very, very practical in presenting these things. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that the Siddha Deha, perfected spiritual body, refers to the body beyond the material gross body composed of 5 elements and the subtle astral body composed of mind, intelligence, false ego. So the Siddha Deha is a spiritual body, which is suitable body for serving Radha and Krishna. Now we are sadhakas, and by practicing sadhana bhakti, we attain siddhi. We become siddhas. Sadhana siddha we are called. So in this sadhana siddha, especially when one reaches the stage of bhava and prema, the body seems to be material, but the body has now completely become spiritualized. And the internal development of the spiritual body has also happened. But mind you, still this is a pancha bhautika deha. It is composed of material elements, but it has become spiritualized. It has become spiritualized. That we have to understand. Just like, you have a iron rod and you take a wire and pass electricity. Now, the wire conducts electricity. You touch the wire, you can feel the electric current. But now, when you're touching that wire to to an iron rod, you touch the iron rod, you can feel the electricity passing. Similarly, it has become electricized. Similarly, the body has become spiritualized. And when he gives up this body, the Siddha, who has attained sadhana, perfection by sadhana, he goes to the spiritual world. But first he goes to another Bhaum Vrindavan where Krishna is manifesting his pastimes. And there he's born in a gopi's body as a gopi or a gopa or whatever it is based on his mood. But specifically here we are speaking about Ujjwal Rasa. So there, that body is spiritual. And in that body, he can serve under the leadership of Yuta, Yuteshwari, we mentioned. Yuta means the group leader. Under there, further fine training is given about the finer aspects of service. And they are able to participate, he or she, whatever it is, able to participate in Radha Krishna pastimes. And then when Krishna winds up that pastime in that universe, then he goes back to the spiritual world. The sadhana siddha becomes a nitya siddha. So this example is given right in the first canto of the 5th chapter of 5th or 6th, I don't know, Narad Vyas Samvad. How Narad Muni in his previous life as a son of a maid servant, he attained perfection, then he gave up his spiritual material body, Pancha Bhautika Deha, and attained a spiritual body like Narad Muni. And this spiritual body, Narad Muni, it's spiritual. That's why he can go anywhere in the material world or in the spiritual world. In other words, one attains completely spiritual body fit to render service to the transcendental couple, Radha and Krishna. This I explained. Now, paragraph 2. When one is situated in a spiritual body, he is beyond this gross and subtle material body. He is fit to serve Radha and Krishna. That body is called Siddha Deha. So even when a sadhaka attains Siddhi, he has developed his spiritual body internally through practice of bhajan. At the stage of Nishtha, one is self-realized. It's like, I am spirit soul. The spirit soul's development of spiritual body begins from the stage of Nishtha through the practice of Raganuga Bhakti. Through the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, where externally he follows the Vaidhi rules, but internally in his chanting, he is Tishtan Vraje, he is situated mentally or physically in Vraj, and he follows the Ragatmika Bhaktas, the eternal associates of the Lords, whatever mood, either it is the Gopis or the Gopas, whatever it is, Sakas, and starts contemplating And like that, he cultivates his Raganuga Bhakti. At the stage of Bhava Bhakti, what happens is his spiritual body is revealed. Siddha Deha is revealed. The Siddha Deha is revealed at the stage of Bhava. But of course, being now, in this world doing the preaching, at another transcendental realm, internally, he's also serving the divine couple. Now, where in the, Mangala, Guru Ashtakam, is this spoken about, what I'm saying? That although the spiritual master is preaching, also he is serving the divine couple Raja and Krishna, where it is mentioned in the Guru Ashtakam prayers. Every day we chant. Anyone else? Okay. Yes, Mataji.
Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shrungaratan Mandiramarjanadav.
This is how the spiritual master engages the disciple in worshipping the deity. This is speaking about Vaidisabha, but where the spiritual master is said to be engaged in serving Radha and Krishna. Amal Bhakti Rani Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, I wanted to say that verse only.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swadana Rupasya.
There he's, Shri Radhika Madhava, that verse, he's mentioned how he's relishing the pastimes. But where it is mentioned that he's serving the divine couple Radha and Krishna. See, every day we chant, but we don't deeply contemplate on the prayers. So where it is mentioned, where it is mentioned. Anyone else? Yes, Reena Mataji.
Sri Vigraha Sri Vigraharadhana
That
Nityanana.
already somebody answered and I said it is no. Vasant Naik Prabhuji. Yes. Yes. So Sri Radhika Madayo Rapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratishana Aswadana Lolopasya Vande Gurushu. The spiritual master is always eager. Lopya, Lopya means, he aspires to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radha and Madha, the qualities, names, form. Aspires to relish at every moment. Prati Shana Aswadana. I offer my results. But this verse, Nikunja Yono Rati Keli Siddhe. Nikunja means of Radha and Krishna, Rati conjugal, Keli pastime, Siddhe for the perfection. Yaya Libhi by the gopis, Yukta arrangements. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis, who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha Krishna's loving affairs within the Gurus of the Dham. See how elevated and exalted is this prayer. So the spiritual master is engaged in assisting the gopis in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So this is, what an elevated position. So this is what is being discussed here. That my point was that within the Siddha Deha also, in this material world, one can engage at a different realm. He can engage in the service while he is engaged here in the preaching. Now, in this life, the mental condition changes in different ways, and the same living entity gets another body in the next life according to his desires. Yam yam vapi sparan bhavam tajantante kalaivaram. The mind, intelligence, and the fallen ego are always engaged in an attempt to dominate material nature. Now, this is very practical for us. We are speaking about these pastimes, but here, what is our condition? The mind, intelligence, and false ego are always attempting to keep hold and control of this material nature. According to the subtle astral body, one attains a gross body to enjoy objects of one's desires. According to the activities of the present body, one prepares another subtle body. And according to the subtle body, one attains another gross body. This is the process of material existence. See, Prabhupada is very practical. He is not discussing about all the, intricate details about the service in the spiritual body. But see, what is your condition now? Because of these material desires, you have been attaining material bodies one after another. Prabhupada is to say, even if you have one material desire, then you'll have to take a birth again. However, when one is spiritually situated and does not desire a gross and subtle body, he attains the original spiritual body. And Prabhupada confirms on 4.9 to Bhagavad. One is elevated to the spiritual world by a spiritual body and is situated either in Golok Vrindavan or another Vaikuntha planet. In the spiritual body, there is no longer material desires, and one is fully satisfied by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of God, Radha and Krishna. This is a platform of bhakti. Rishikesh Rishi Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. When the spiritual body, mind, and senses are completely purified, one can render service to the Supreme Personality and his consort. So Prabhupada is saying very clear, completely purified. In Vaikuntha, the consort is Lakshmi, and in Golok, the consort is Srimati Radharani. In the spiritual body, freed from contamination, one can serve Radha and Krishna and Lakshmi and Narayan. When one is thus spiritually situated, he no longer thinks of his own personal sense gratification. The spiritual body is called Siddha Deha, the body in which one can render transcendental service unto Radha and Krishna. The process is that of engaging the transcendental senses in loving devotional service. This verse specifically mentions Sakhi Bhave Paye Radha Krishna. Only transcendentally elevated persons in the mood of the gopis can engage in the service of the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Text 230. This is the last verse we'll take for today. Gopi Anugata Vina Aishwarya Gyane Bhajile Nahi Paye Vrajendra Nandana. Now is the warning. Ramananda is saying, unless one follows the footsteps of the gopis. So what kind of bhakti, we have to practice to follow in the footsteps of the gopis? What type of bhakti? What is that bhakti called? Anyone knows? What is that bhakti called? Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it is Raganuga Bhakti.
Raganuga Bhakti, okay. And whom do they follow? Yes, Amal Bhakti Rani Mataji. What type of bhakti they are called? Whom they follow? The Raganuga. Raganuga means to follow. Follow. Whom do they follow?
I don't know, Prabhuji. Parikarna?
Yeah, the eternal associates, they are called as Ragatmika Bhaktas.
Ragatmika, yes.
So the Raganugas follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Those who are in Madhurya, they follow the gopis. Those who are having the Sakya mood, they will follow the Sakas, Sridama, Sudama. So this is the point here. He cannot attain the service of lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. If one is overcome by knowledge of the Lord's opulence, Aishwarya Gyan, he cannot attain the Lord's lotus feet, even though he is engaged in dual service. If one is attracted to still the Vidhi marg and not the Rag marg, Raganuga Bhakti, if he doesn't come to the point by following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti, then he will practice Vaidhi Bhakti and ultimately attain Aishwarya Gyan, and he'll end up in Vaikuntha or Dwarka or Mathura. One can worship Lakshmi Narayan by the process of Vidhi Marg. Worship the Lord with regulative principles according to the instructions of the Shastra and spiritual master. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna, cannot be directly worshipped by this process. It doesn't mean that, directly we can practice Raga. No, we have to practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The dealings between Radha and Krishna and the gopis are devoid of the opulence of Lakshmi Narayan, because there is awe and reverence. Oh, this is Master Narayan, and I am his servant. Dasya Bhav is there. There is no Sakya Bhav there. no servants of Narayan climb on Narayan. Whereas the friends of Krishna climb on Krishna and play. Oh, we both are equal. Tumi amma sama. Tumi kon bada. Who are you big? We are all equal. The process of Vidhi Marg, following the regulative principles, is utilized in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. Whereas the process of spontaneous service, following in the footsteps of gopis, who are the denizens of Vrindavan, is transcendently more advanced and is the process whereby Radha and Krishna are worshipped. One cannot attain this elevated position while worshipping the Lord in his opulence, Aishwarya. Those attracted by the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna must follow in the footsteps of the gopis. They should come to the practice of Raganuga Bhakti. Only then it is possible to enter into the Lord's service in Golok Vrindavan and directly associate with Radha and Krishna. So this is the footnote which we mentioned. Okay, now I'll just take one more verse in the Harinam Chintamani and end up today's discussion. So this was mentioned here, and we saw the footnote about Bhava Sadhane Pancha Dasha. Dasha. See, there is Das, Dasha. Das means servant, Dasha means 10, the figure 10. Dasha means state. The 5 states of being in the course of advancement in Ujjwal Ras. Ekadashe Bhava Sampurna Sadhane Panchadasha Lakshe Hoy Sadhaka Jivane. In attaining these 11 items, the 11 items were mentioned in the previous verse. So in attaining these 11 items, Ekadasha Bhava Sampurna Sadhane, the aspiring devotee passes through 5 stages. He passes through these 5 stages. So there are 5 stages you have to cross to attain these 11, items, which you need to know in your perfected spiritual body to serve the divine couple Radha and Krishna. Now, what are these 5 stages? Anyone knows? Can raise your hands. What are these 5 stages? Anyone? Anyone else? Satyanarayan Prabhuji, what are the 5 stages? Tomorrow's whole class will begin now the discussion how to go through these different stages and attain ultimately perfection. Okay, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji. Yes, Amal Bhakti Rani Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
The first one is Shravanam, Prabhuji.
Shravana Dasha. Correct. Then second?
Smaranam and all that.
Yeah, what generic you're speaking. Smaran. Next is what?
Worshipping.
No. Not exactly. Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's a Sravan Dasa, then Varana Dasa, and next is Smaran, again Apan, and last is Sampatti Dasa.
Yes, exactly. And within Smaran Dasha, there are 5 substages.
Yes, Prabhuji, the five stages are there in Sravan.
Do you remember?
Not exactly.
Okay, within this Smaran, there is Smaran, Dharan, Dhyan, Anusmriti, and Samadhi. So this you should all remember. Prabhupada speaks about this in the Nectar of Instructions, text 8. So I'll show you the slide here now. Okay, yes. Okay, this is which. Oh, this is not there. Yes. Yes. Shravan Dasha, Varana Dasha, Smaran Dasha, Apan Dasha, Sampati Dasha. And within Smaran Dasha, there is Smaran, Dharana, Dhyana, Anusmriti, Samadhi. Now on in the Sri Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to systematically take us how one comes to the stage of Shravan Dasha, how from Shravan Dasha he goes to the stage of Varana Dasha, how one comes to the stage of Smaran Dasha. Within Smaran Dasha, he'll go through these 5 stages. Then how one attains Apan Dasha, and then how one attains Sampati Dasha. At the stage of Apan Dasha, one's spiritual body is revealed and the rasa with Krishna. And in Sampati Dasha, one has attained perfection in this life. So the whole now Harinam Chintamani verses are going to speak about this. Many verses he is going to devote to each of these states. And that discussion we will begin tomorrow. Okay, any questions, any clarifications? Anyone has what we discussed today? Okay then, so we will meet tomorrow to begin our discussion on these 5 states. The first state is given in few verses, and then there are other states also mentioned. We will have a very elaborate discussion on this. This is now, we are on 60 verses, another 55 verses are remaining. Briefly, we will be discussing these. Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.